Correct. I am your host, Thomas Wake, Wake Movement, also All Souls Aquarian Church. Let's just go. This is an exercise I like to do. It's jump back and forth from Fox News, see what's going on with them, see what's going on with our boys over at CNN, just to see what kind of dichotomy they're trying to put us in. The left or the right side of the wing. Choose which one you want to get hung upon. Here's something interesting. Trump and not liking fact checking, which is totally retarded. If you can't, excuse me, I don't like using that word. Totally bad. And people with mentally handicapped diseases or physically handicapped, those are angels of freaking God. Okay. Trump mocked, perhaps knowingly or not knowingly. Okay. Well, he didn't like being fact checked during one of his talks. So now he's lashing out against Twitter specifically. And now this brings up our freedom of speech, which is a great thing because many good channels, our First Amendment is our First Amendment for a freaking reason. And it is being attacked daily. Some other good news is we seem to have Trumpito and Pompeo beefing with Israel because of their dealings with China and Russia, while we're supposedly curtailing trading with them. Let's see what comes up. What's quite obvious to me is that our greatest ally in the Middle East is not our greatest ally. Rather, they're freaking sucking us dry. Oh my God. The U.S. demands Israel takes its side in the new Cold War. Ooh, this is before freaking or in the wake of COVID-19. So when was this written? The 17th day of January, February, March, April, May. 10 days ago. The U.S. demands Israel take its side in the new Cold War with China. Well, great. This is crazy. The U.S. Secretary of State's irregular visit to Israel last week was meant to signal that the trade war with China is escalating in the wake of our favorite disease. And Israel defense has always been the number one item on the agenda. So when U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made a rushed visit to Jerusalem at the height of the CV crisis, most people assumed it had to do with matters of defense of Israel's recently announced plans to annex the West Bank. Great. Something we should definitely be thinking about during this whole crisis is go grabbing some more land. But as opposed to Israel, where defense reigns supreme for Americans, it's always about the money. Who is this? C-Tech? Calculus? I don't know who the source is. Israelis were surprised to find out that the reason Pompeo exited lockdown and took a plane to Israel at this time was to warn Jerusalem against extending its economic cooperation with China. The warning was particularly meant to address the desalination plant, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. The unusual visit was meant to signal to Israel that the war is already here, and it will soon have to pick a side. Whoa! Well, Israel's just been trying to play China against America when really they're in cahoots with freaking Russia. Don't look into the Russian interference. Look into the Israeli interference. The tech giants. This time, it won't only be a trade war. A new Cold War between the U.S. and China is in the cards. And like in the original Cold War with Russia, it will be impossible for Israel, which is unquestionably a U.S. ally. It's questionable to be in the unaligned camp, navigating the treacherous waters of the conflict between the U.S. on one side and China on the other, which before the crisis was expected to bypass the U.S. as the world's largest economy. So this all happened as China was about to bypass us as the world's largest economy. This will be a daunting task for Israel's incoming Minister of Foreign Affairs, Gabi Ashkenazi. Why does Ashkenazi end in N-A-Z-I? That is weird. Israel has worked hard over the past few decades to expand its trade relations with China, an effort that has borne fruit in recent years. I don't think I have to go on anymore, but this is something to pay attention to. And it goes to Hawaii and the tech battle. Well, which actually, let's read this together. Maybe this is boring to you, but this is importante. Oh, it's also hard not to drink through this. It's so depressing. Let's not give into escapism, though. Moderation. The events taking place on the global stage may force the Israeli government to hit delete on these processes. Watch. Israel working hard to expand its trade relations with China. The next war will be dubbed the supply chain war, and the pieces have already started moving on the board. These stupid supply chains that are all over the world, we have a supply chain where they're made in all different parts of the world, and one little piece of the world goes bad and the whole thing is messed up, Trump said to Fox on Thursday while Pompeo was in Israel. We should have them all in the U.S., Trump concluded. What does that say about Israel? Because they're the tech giant. A few hours after the interview, New York and Taipei-listed Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company Limited announced it would build a new $12 billion manufacturing plant in Arizona. It's not a coincidence, rather the result of constant pressure by the Trump administration that does not want TSMC to provide its chips to Chinese mobile phone manufacturer Huawei. They make chips for Apple, Nvidia, and Qualcomm. Taipei, Taiwan. Damn, Taiwan. That gives Taiwan some power. Okay, let's see here. Decades of globalization, which began after the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Soviet bloc, pushed for the distribution of manufacturing operations to locations with low production costs. That is how the pre-COVID-19 world found itself with China and East Asia as its factory. Yeah, cheap-ass labor. Slavery, pretty much. Because the global pandemic and the supply chain disruption it caused exposed a high level of dependence on that part of the world. Most notably when Apple said it would not meet its first quarter targets. There's the end of the world. Because of China and its plants. And its slave camps. Oh, man. Then it goes into big drugs. Oh, brother. In the letter, the embassy officially rebuked Pompeo's anti-China rhetoric. Yeah. referring to the Israelis as Jayish friends, and explained that the Americans were to blame for their current dire situation because they missed the opportunity window, despite Beijing's warnings. Damn. But the crux of the letter came to show how small Israel's share in Chinese investments is. Oh, really? Really? Oh, China hasn't invested in Israel. Okay. Okay, so that was interesting. Okay, so that's just a little look into what's going on. What's happening is that they're overhyping this whole thing. It is a real thing from my take of view. I'm still learning every day. It's being used to push us all into an Orwellian technocracy ruled by big corporations of the likes of the Rockefellers, Gates, our Childs, Guggenheimers, freaking Vanderbilts. Those are the families, and then into Europe. And with these bloodlines, even Trump said something about bloodlines the other day on a video. The ones that rule this freaking world. Not your stupid freaking puppet head, red, white. Trump praises Henry Ford's bloodlines. Henry Ford, who I'm sure was big into horrible working conditions.
The company founded by a man named Henry Ford, good bloodlines.
What the crap are we in? Look at your boy Henry Ford. I'm not into the whole reptilian conspiracy, but your boy's looking like one. And what they want to do, they want to control the population. How do you control the population? You don't want people to A, have sex, have children, be fertile. You want to sterilize them. You want to kill them. We're using our nanotechnology together with biotechnology, virology, epidemiology to inject this as a way to take out our population. This is not an equal playing field, as our boy Gates says. This takes out the poor, and with the middle class, pushes them to the bottom. The top 1% of the 1% win. And we're so in fear, we're being in terror, we're being terrorized by our own media, who's controlled by the big corporations. Shit.